Hi all, welcome to my channel Chadvari Talks. So today's video is all about common table expressions, subqueries and temporary tables. We will try to see each and everything in detail and we will try to see the differences between them. Before starting the video, I request you all to please subscribe the channel and like and share the video if it really helps you so that I can get more subscribers for my channel. Thank you. So let's start with the video. So if you see in our data engineering world, a major of the SQL queries which we write are related to your common table expressions, which are nothing but your CTEs, subqueries, and temporary tables. Irrespective of the database which you work, either you work with Oracle, Teradata, MySQL, or Postgres, or cloud databases like Snowflake, still we use these common table expressions, subqueries, and temporary tables in different manner. Even with big data, especially with Hive and Impala, where you are using your SQL related queries. So in the data engineering world, these CTEs, subqueries, and temporary tables plays a very important role for the ETL pipelines which we write or the data processing capabilities which we design is completely dependent on this. So we will try to see how these common table expressions or subqueries and temporary tables will be used and what is the key difference between them in detail. Now let's go back to the SQL editor. So I have brought up the SQL editor to you. So as we know that in all our videos, we are using majorly the people's table. We will try to use the same table in today's session also. So before starting the common table expressions, I just want you all to see the data, what is present in people's table. Now, if you see, we have in people's table, first name, last name, city, state, and other columns. Out of these columns, we will be creating a common table expression and we will try to see how these common table expressions can be used. Now, even though we call the terminology as the common table expressions always be accompanied with a with keyword as. So some people who are very much familiar with common table expressions, they will call it as with clauses also. So whenever you create a common table expression, you will be using a with clause. So if you wanted to create a common table expressions, you would be always using a with keyword. A with keyword accompanied by some name gives you a common table expressions for that particular query what you write. It will try to hold the data or the result of that query for that particular query session only. Please remember, it will try to hold the result set of that query for that particular query session only. I'm telling the query session means only for that particular query only. Now let's try to see. We have multiple columns in the people's table. We will try to get only few columns out of this. Select first name, last name, city, and state also will take, or we can, city is good enough for now, from people. So this is a query. If you say this is a query, now we are trying to create this query as a common table expression. Now, if you want to see how this common table expression looks, you can just query like a table. If you run this, it will try to give you the data. You can see in people's table, we have many columns. But in the CTE which you have created, you have brought only your first name, last name, and city. Now you can use the CTE as a table to your subsequent queries. You can create one more query and you can use it. Now, if how do these CTEs helps, we will see. Now I'm creating another CTE, yes, CTE2 as from the CTE1, I am trying to get the distant cities. Now you can see I have created CTE1. In CTE1, I got first name, last name, and city. And people's table is no longer being used because we got the data from people's table and we have created a CTE, which is CTE1. Now from CTE1, I am creating a new common table expression CTE2 in which I wanted to get only cities of different values of different cities. Now, your question should come, Will the data comes from people's table or the data comes from CTE1? The data comes from CTE1, not from people's table. Because once your CTE1 is created, people's table, the control to people's table will be no longer exist. You brought the data from people's table, you put it into your CTE1. Now you would be using your CTE1 for all your subsequent queries. Means how many queries you write. Still this query is not ended. This is entirely is a single query. How many level of queries you write, you can use your CTEs. That is the reason I said CTE is nothing but it will try to hold the result for that particular query session. So this is entirely a query. So it will try to hold the result for that particular query session only. For those kind of requirements, you would be using your common table expressions. Now let's try to see the output of your CTE2. If you see, from CTE1 we got first name, last name and city, and from CTE2 we got a distant cities, a list of all the distant cities. So you can do that kind of data filtrations and you can create your own subsequent joins and you can make your transformations very easier. For those kind of requirements, you would be using this common table expressions. Again, I'm telling common table expressions always be accompanied by a with keyword. Some people says these are like with clauses also. Either it is with clause or common table expressions. It is one and the same. I hope common table expressions are clear to you. Now let's jump into subqueries. So what is a subquery? A query within a query is nothing but a subquery. We will try to see how do we use this subquery. Now again, let's go back to the people's table and we will try to see some sample data to bring up the query. Now here we have first name, last name, city and company. Now I want to get a list of all the cities and I want to check whether that particular city is there or not. Now, if you see, we have different states here. We have California, we have New York, we have Illinois, Texas, Connecticut, Florida, and all. Now, out of this, I don't want California data. I want everything, but I don't want California data. For that, we are trying to write a subquery. Now, what we will try to do, and we want only at state level. You can say that just put a not in condition and you can retrieve the data, even that is also good, but we will try to implement this in a subquery. We will try to see how this is gonna work. Now let's select distinct state from people's table where state not in California. So when you run this query, you will get a list of all states, but not California. You can order also. You can order by state. You can get it in alphabetical order so that you can see we didn't get California. We got Connecticut and Colorado, but we didn't get California, which is CA. Now I want to retrieve all the data from people's table where state in. I can remove this order by clause because we don't require. So you can see now this is a query. This is one level of query. This is query one. Now this is second query, which is query two. The outer one is query 2. Just I have commented out. That's what I'm bringing here. This is query 2. So you can say this is query number 1 and this is query number 2. So query within a query is nothing but your subquery. So we have written a query just for your understanding. I have written a simple query and there could be multiple difficult queries also. You can write a query using the output of that query. You can get the result out of it. So for those kind of requirements, you can build your subquery. Now, if you run this query, you will get all the data from other states apart from California. You can see you got all your people's data, but there is no state code as California. You will not have anything with respect to California state here. So for those kind of requirements, you would be using your subqueries. I hope subqueries is clear to you. Now, either common table expressions or subqueries, it will try to hold the result only for that particular query. So you can see common table expressions. Common table expressions can be behave as a table for you. You can use the result of one query in your subsequent queries. Query instance in the within the same query, you can create it like a table. We have seen CTE1, CTE2. The output of CTE1 behaves like a table and it is being addressed in the subsequent query. And you are trying to get a distinct cities from the CTE1 there. Similarly, here in subquery, you have an inner query. The result of your inner query is being used in your outer query. So this is about subqueries. So both either you use common table expressions or your subqueries, it will try to maintain the result only for that query session only. Once your query is completed, your result will be exposed to your user or your naked eye, but you cannot use it in your subsequent queries. Because if you wanted to use it in another query, you cannot use it. So that is the difference between your common table expressions or subqueries. Now let's try to see another important concept of temporary tables. So what is a temporary table? We will try to see. I'll try to create a temporary table. Temporary tables always be accompanied with a temporary keyword. I will say people temp as select star from people where state is equal to California. Now, out of all the records from the people's table, I am trying to create a temporary table where I will try to hold only California data. So you can see I'll create a temporary table, and to know how the temporary table is created or not, if you can see on the right hand side, we have tables and we have only people and states. We have indexes 0 as views as 0 and triggers as 0. Now when I run this statement, I will be getting a temporary table. You can say these are the main tables and these are the temporary tables. Within the temporary table, I can see people underscore temp. Now, if I query this table, I can still access it. It's coming. Now, if I query this table, I can see the data of all California related people's data. Now, how long this temporary table will be there? Till my session is active. Till I close this browser. This browser is a session. Till I close this section, the temporary table will be available for me. If you want to hold the result for your session, for your complete session, if I wanted to see this result for subsequent queries, I can still use it. Whereas in with clauses or in common table expressions or your subqueries, you cannot hold the data for your subsequent queries. Subsequent means another query. But in temporary tables, I can use this data and I can write one more table. If I wanted to filter only where city is equal to Los Angeles, I can write it. Let me take apply a filter and downwards. So you'll try to see. So I'm trying to filter the data here only to have Los Angeles data. If you run this query, still you can get only Los Angeles data. You can see in temporary tables, I have created the people temp table. From people temp table, I'm using and I'm filtering the data. Even though the query has completed, still I can use it in my subsequent queries. In another queries also, I can use it. In this way, you can use your temporary tables. So temporary tables are used like a stage tables in your SQL queries or your data engineering projects where you work, especially in the ETL processing which you design. You can take data from a file, you can put it into your temporary table, which is like a stage nation table. It's like a stage table for you. Once your processing is completed, automatically your temporary tables will be removed from the session that was created for your processing. For those kind of requirements, you would be using temporary tables. I hope you got the difference between a common table expression, your subqueries, and temporary tables. If someone questions you or asks you the reference, now you can rock and you can give your answers appropriately. Hope this video is helpful for you. Thank you for watching. Again, I request you all to please like, share and subscribe my channel. Thank you.